Western Pacific, 2 a.m. Somewhere off Guam, a Virginia-class submarine lies hidden beneath the waves. 20,000 feet above, B-2 stealth bombers silently drift across the night sky. They're in position, knowing their next move will change history. The target? China. But how did it even get here? The trigger is clear. China moves on Taiwan. For Washington, this isn't just another conflict. Taiwan is a strategic partner, and crossing that line can't be ignored. The US has the most powerful military on Earth. China has home turf, one of the largest armies in the world, and a wall of long-range missiles meant to keep the US Navy away. NATO hesitates. European leaders call for diplomacy. Japan, South Korea, and Australia allow US use of bases, but their soldiers stay home. America stands alone. Nuclear weapons are off the table. Both Washington and Beijing know if this war goes nuclear, the world ends. So the war stays conventional. That leaves the US just 60 to 90 days to prepare, supporting Taiwan in the meantime while the full invasion plan takes shape. And, as usual, keep in mind this is a sandbox scenario. Thanks. So what does the plan actually look like? It starts with raw numbers. The US can send 2 or 3 carrier strike groups into the Philippine Sea. It has 19 B-2 stealth bombers, 76 older B-52 bombers, and perhaps its most survivable weapons, 24 Virginia-class nuclear submarines prowling the deep. The Marines can draw on 32 amphibious ships to lift 2 Marine Expeditionary Brigades, though only a fraction are fully ready. A full Army Corps waits in reserve. The heavier force comes only after a port is secure. The invasion would unfold in phases. Phase 0 starts weeks before the first shot. Tankers, transports, and sea lift ships push towards Guam, Okinawa, and Australia. Pre-positioned stocks, shipping containers full of weapons and supplies kept ready in advance, are moved into place. U.S. cyber units probe Chinese networks, planting hidden access points, jamming radar data, and slipping false signals into enemy systems. In orbit, Space Force shifts satellites into wartime posture, deploying small backups to keep communications alive once China begins trying to blind the sky. Phase 1 is the opening strike. B-2 stealth bombers fly in to hit Chinese radar, missile batteries, and command bunkers. Virginia-class submarines launch cruise missiles at ports, fuel farms, and coastal defenses. U.S. carriers wait hundreds of miles offshore, launching F-35C stealth fighters and EA-18G Growlers, jets designed for electronic warfare to hammer missile sites. Super Hornets fire long-range anti-ship missiles at Chinese destroyers. The goal isn't to level the coast, it's to open short-lived corridors through China's air defenses, just wide enough for the next phase. Phase 2 is about sea control. U.S. submarines wait at the choke points, ambushing Chinese ships as they leave port. B-52 bombers drop sea mines across straits, aiming to trap the Chinese Navy inside. The U.S. doesn't need to control the sea forever, only to create short windows of superiority, lasting hours or days, just long enough for Marines and Army units to move in. Phase 3 is the hardest part, the landing. Where do you land an army on a coastline defended by the world's largest missile arsenal? The coast opposite Taiwan is closest, but it's also the most fortified shoreline on Earth, with mountains behind it that favor the defender. The south near Guangdong ties into the South China Sea lanes, but it's home to China's main naval bases. Hainan Island is a fortress packed with sensors and submarines. Even the softer-looking Beibu Gulf lies well inside of range of China's DF-21 and DF-26 missiles, designed specifically to sink ships at sea. And the U.S. doesn't need just a beach, it needs a port. Without one, the supply convoys can't keep moving. The military has floating piers and offload systems, but they aren't built to withstand precision missile strikes. That makes the mission clear. Seize a medium-sized port in a lightning strike, and keep it open under constant fire. Without that lifeline, the mission fails. Now, picture the other side. China's playbook is ruthless. The People's Liberation Army has nearly 1 million active soldiers, organized into modern combined arms brigades. Its navy has already passed the U.S. in sheer numbers, with around 787 ships, including multiple carriers and around 80 submarines. Its air force flies around 2,800 fighters, J-10s, J-16s, and an expanding fleet of stealthy J-20s. And layered around the coast is a belt of surface-to-air missile systems stretching hundreds of miles. backed by Russian-built S-400s. But the real danger is China's missile arsenal. The DF-21D can hit ships over 1,000 miles away. The DF-26 extends that reach to nearly 2,000 miles. Supersonic YJ-12s and sub-launched YJ-18s cover the paths in. If China's radar and targeting network stays alive, every American ship risks being swarmed by guided missiles. On top of that are waves of kamikaze drones and the new DF-17 hypersonic glider aimed at bases and tankers. China doesn't need to sink everything, just enough to make Washington hesitate. And Beijing has other cards to play. Its hackers attacked U.S. logistics software, scrambling convoy schedules. Its jammers spoofed GPS, forcing U.S. pilots and missiles to rely on older navigation systems. Its anti-satellite weapons cut Americans' eyes and ears in orbit. Suddenly, Marines may be storming a beach with broken communications, fewer smart weapons, and supply convoys that can't even reach them. So what happens when theory collides with reality? First, America burns through its stockpiles fast. Pentagon wargames show the U.S. running out of precision missiles in weeks. Tankers and supply ships become the weak points. And no matter how many troops you land, if you can't feed them, fuel them, and keep ammo flowing, they collapse on the sand. Meanwhile, political and economic pressure goes through the roof. Global shipping halts, energy markets shake, stock markets crash. At home, Americans watch the news. Marines under heavy fire, carriers dodging missile swarms, fuel convoys exploding. Congress votes billions in emergency funding. But Pentagon planners quietly admit America's factories can't replace lost weapons and ships quickly. Production takes months or even years, which means the invasion must succeed quickly or not at all. So, how might it end? In the best case, after weeks of pounding, the U.S. punches a hole and seizes a southern port in a lightning strike. Marines push inland, overrunning coastal missile batteries and isolating the harbor. Submarines hold back China's fleet, engineers repair the port, and supply convoys begin flowing. America now has a bargaining chip, but the cost is staggering. Thousands soldiers lost, ships sunk, and a fragile foothold hanging on under non-stop missile fire. The more likely case, the port never holds. The U.S. tries to land, but surviving Chinese missiles crater runways, smash cranes, and cut supply lines faster than they can be repaired. After losing too many ships and men, Washington abandons the invasion. Instead, America shifts to blockade, long-range strikes, and raids. China bleeds economically, but the PLA still holds its ground. The war drags on without a U.S. foothold on the mainland. And then, there's the nightmare. China's sensors survive intact. The strike chain, detection, tracking, and missile launch stays unbroken. Waves of DF-21 and DF-26 missiles smash into a U.S. carrier group. An amphibious ship goes down, taking thousands of Marines with it. Sea-lift convoys burn at sea. Under political shock and logistical collapse, Washington halts the invasion entirely. Beijing declares victory, boasting it has repelled the most powerful military on Earth. The timeline is unforgiving. Weeks 1 through 4, bombing runs, missile duels, and submarine ambushes. Months 2 through 4, either a fragile foothold or a pivot to blockade. Beyond 6 months, it becomes a war of industry. America's limited stockpiles grinding against China's large numbers and proximity. So who wins? On paper, U.S. bombers and submarines can gut fleets. But China doesn't have to win at sea. It just has to hold its coast. Unless America can seize and keep a port alive under constant fire, the odds of success are slim. The realistic outcome isn't a U.S. march on Shanghai, but a tough standstill, a long, punishing air-sea battle, a tight blockade, and a global economy in ruins. Which leaves the last question, not whether the U.S. could invade China, but whether the world could survive what follows. And if you thought invading China was tough, imagine the tables turned. What if NATO had to invade the United States?